what is the through the journey, what is the impact they made, and where do they stand currently. So I will start with context. Okay, so IKEA was started in Sweden in 1943, and initially the founder had started with a small business, which later converted to a furniture business. And the philosophy was very simple: to make affordable furniture available to everyone. So it incorporated the cultural values and ideas that Sweden and the place where founder came from. Uh, the ethos of the company incorporated those values to provide simple, cost-effective solutions to everyone. IKEA in the decades of 1950s, 60s, 70s, it kept expanding its presence, and it expanded to Australia, Europe, Latin America, and with expansion uh, came some also challenges. Some challenges also appeared. So they saw that concerns were being raised on IKEA's operations and IKEA's products. For example, there were concerns regarding the raw material, which were causing a lot of deforestation. Then there were concerns that IKEA was accused of child labor because it was working with countries and partners where child labor was happening. So that was another thing which came to them. And thirdly, it was found that IKEA's products had high level of formaldehydes, which causes skin reactions and can also lead to cancer. So at that point of time, consumers also started asking for better solutions which are safe for them. With these challenges looming over, instead of doing away with the responsibility, IKEA decided to take the responsibility and make the shifts. And here, an important factor was the values and the cultural heritage that the founder came from. So the first step they took was they firstly established, looking at these concerns, they did an internal did an internal introspection, and a report was produced which suggested what are the mistakes that have been made in the past, and if they continue, what will be the impacts. So depending on that, based on that, IKEA came with its first formal commitment to sustainability with an environmental policy. Then later they also extended their efforts to include their suppliers. So that's where they came with IKEA way of working. So that code of conduct came in, where they also instructed their suppliers to focus on social and environmental aspects as well in their way of working. Simultaneously, they also found partnerships with Greenpeace, WWF, to ensure that their practices are aligned with uh, minimizing the deforestation. And later, they came up with a full-blown sustainability strategy where they came with very high commitment of replacing their entire material with sustainable or recycled wood. So this has been their initial journey. Now, Chetna will take us through the core sustainability strategy that stands today and what has been its impact and achievements.
You'll move the slide, Samita?
Yeah.
Okay, so they chose FY16 as the baseline for emission baseline. And in FY16, their total emissions were about 29.71 million tons of carbon dioxide emissions. And then they set a target that they will reduce this by 50% by FY30, which is 14 to 14.85. Yeah, 14.85 million tons of emissions is what they will reduce. And if we look at FY24, they have achieved actuals of about 21.30 million tons of carbon dioxide emissions, which is a 28% reduction versus the target that they have achieved. So they still need to achieve the balance 30% and the gap of 6.45 million tons of emission reduction they have to do. So they have a twofold objective. One is to reduce the emissions by 50% by FY30 and their net zero by FY50. Next slide. So their strategy is based on 10 strategic parameters, out of which the first four, if you see, they are the primary ones. So they are focused on climate action, like we said that they plan to reduce the emissions by 50% by FY30 and net zero by FY50. Circularity is another focus area where they are focusing on designing for reuse, repair, recycle, and renewable material. Then another focus is on sustainable living for the affordable and sustainable living for their customers. They want to be fair and equal, providing fair wages and human rights across their supply chains. Then regenerative nature, basically protecting forests, oceans, and farmlands. They want to transform their supply chains, and they're also partnering with their suppliers for 100% renewable electricity. They're focusing on low carbon logistics, electrifying their last mile, and even focusing on low carbon shipping. Focusing on sustainable food is another major parameter for them, where they are trying to get 50 to 60% plant rich meals to reduce their climate footprint. They're focusing on carbon removals, wherein the focus is on high integrity removal projects post 2030. And governance and data is strong for them as they are CSRD aligned, and they're also OKR based tracking they are doing for accountability. Now, if we look at the next slide, I think you'll have to scroll down because it shows only half to me on the screen. Okay, so this is how their scope 1 has reduced from what they were in FY16 and how they are versus the target. So FY16 baseline emission was 1,16,529 tons of carbon dioxide emission. And if you see the actual against this is 66,497 as on FY24. And the target, okay, they have taken a combined target for scope 1 and scope 2 to reduce at a combined level by 82%. So they are still, there is a gap of almost about 50,000 tons of reduction that they are yet to do. Now, the actions that they have taken to reduce from the FY16 baseline till FY24 is that they have focused on phasing out on-site fossil fuels in their supplier factories. They're focused on energy efficiency upgrades in their operations. They are transitioning to low GWP refrigerants and also electrification of the IKEA-owned vehicles. And to reach the FY30 target, they will have to focus on full elimination of the on-site fossil fuels. They'll have to shift faster to low GWP refrigerants. They will have to focus on electrifying all of their owned vehicles, at least before FY28. And they will have to support their suppliers for fuel switching. Let's look at the next slide where we are talking about scope 2 and its performance. Yes, so they have been reporting both location-based as well as market-based scope 2 emissions. And if you see that there is 43% overall reduction in the location-based disclosures. And on the market-based, there is almost about 98%. So they are almost on track where in terms of their scope 2 reduction. In terms of renewable electricity on the retail side, they're in FY16, they were at 53%, which has now increased to 99%. So almost 100% they will achieve by, and the target was to achieve 100% by FY30, when they're almost in line. The action that they have taken here is renewable energy procurement. Rooftop solar they have focused on. They're focused on arranging PPAs, and LED, HVAC efficiency is what they have worked on. And to achieve the full target of 100%, they will have to further establish PPAs with the remaining countries, and also focus on electrifying heating in the cold climate stores. Looking at the scope 3. So in scope 3, what we have done is we have looked at some of the major parameters that have been contributing to the scope 3 emissions. And material is one of the largest emissions category, almost contributing more than 50% of the total scope 3 emissions. So here, in baseline emissions of FY16, they were about 12.12 million tons of carbon dioxide emissions were there. As against that, they have already achieved 11.02 million tons in FY24. So there is still a gap of approximately 4.96 million tons, which is about 9%, which they will have to bridge the gap in future. Now, the actions that they have taken to reduce it from 12 million tons to 11, which is a nominal, which is not a very significant reduction, is that they have focused on material efficiency programs. They have used recycled wood and recycled plastic. They have focused on changing the steel design, and also on changing their packaging from paperboard to corrugated. Now, since this is a very formidable challenge for them, material, because they are a material intensive industry, so company, so they will have to take more steps in terms of focusing more on recycled content for steel, plastics, and textiles. They will have to make some strategic investments in recycled feedstock suppliers. That is what they plan to do. And they will have to redesign some of their top emitting products. And of course, verified LCA reporting will have to be done from their suppliers. Looking at the next category in scope 3, which is production and transportation. So production, which is mainly their supplier factories. So here also, they have reduced from 3.12 to 1.42. The target is to achieve 0.62 million tons of carbon dioxide emissions by FY30. So the gap is about 0.80. 491 factories of IKEA have 100% renewable electricity. They're also working on coal phase out, at least on site by FY27 and off site by FY23. On the transportation and distribution side, again, if you see from the baseline, they have reduced from 1.31 to 1.13 as on FY24. The target is to reduce it to 0.39. So there is still a gap of 0.74. So again, efficiency improvements, while they have taken, which have led them to reduce some of these emissions, but they will also have to focus on route-specific low carbon fuel, electrifying their medium haul transport, and zero emission shipping hubs is what they will focus on in future. Looking at the next category, which is food and home deliveries. Yes, so in food, again, if you see, the gap is very small here. They are almost in line with what they had envisaged. From 0.86, they have already achieved 0.81. And the focus has been on 36% plant-rich meals, plant-based food investments they have done, and regenerative agricultural plots. But if you look at home deliveries, here there is a negative growth is what is observed. So if you see their FY16 baseline emissions, they were about 0.20 million tons. And in FY24, this has increased to 0.30. So this is an area of concern for the company. And this is mainly because there is an expansion in their retail network that has led to this growth in the emissions. The target is to, 5x30 target is to reduce to 0.14. And this is where they will have to now focus on expanding their EVs in the last mile deliveries, and setting up renewable charging micro hubs and route densifications. Looking at the next category. So these were what we just discussed. They were the major categories in the scope 3 emissions. And this kind of gives us a snapshot of all the categories within scope 3, how they have been performing in FY24 versus the baseline assumptions of FY16, and versus the target that they had set for FY30. So if we look here, Let's look at the positives one. I think most of them, like 5 of the reported ones, they are almost on track, and one of them is also exceeding. Like they are on track on production, transportation, product use, end of life use, and business travel. They're exceeding also, but they still have some gaps to bridge in material and food, like we discussed, and in one more category underneath, which is franchisees is still they will have to accelerate. But in the two categories of commuting and home deliveries, they are far, far behind the targets, and that is where the company will now have to focus on. Can we go to the next slide? Yes. So, what does the roadmap look like to bridge this 6.45 million tons of gap? So, I think the past slide kind of gives the headway to where they should be progressing. The focus would be on improving the materials, focusing more on recycled content, redesigning their top products, recycling their feedstock investments. They will have to do PPAs for top 20% emitters and enforcing the coal phase outs. On the supplier side, again, okay, on the supplier side, they will have to do these PPAs and focusing on coal phase out, and also for helping them, supporting their suppliers for electrifications. On the transport and logistics side, they will have to focus on route specific low carbon fuel, electrifying their medium haul trucks, and focusing on zero emission shipping hubs. And in home deliveries, they will again have to focus on renewable charging and going for EV electrification of last mile deliveries. So this is what the roadmap looks like for till FY 30 and beyond. Moving to the next slide. So, what is the critical economic impact we kind of evaluate from this activity is that there is a high raw material instability. So, this company is dependent on various raw materials like wool, cotton, wood, cotton, and other textiles. So, any climate risk can disrupt the supply of these raw materials. So, they will have to focus on renewable and recycled material, on creating circularity in their raw materials, as well as regenerative agriculture. This is what they are focusing on currently. From a regulatory risk perspective, since they also import steel and aluminium from high carbon regions, so this can add to their carbon costs. So the company is now focusing more on supplier decarbonization program and material substitution. Rising logistics and transition cost, transport emissions have increased, as we saw in the previous slides, versus the baseline. So they are now focusing on green shipping fuels, electrifying last mile delivery, load optimization, and route planning. There is likely to be high short-term capex, essentially because they are now partnering with suppliers for electrification and renewables. So some amount of capex is likely to be there. So focus is primarily on providing financing schemes to suppliers and long-term supply contracts. So while these investments will be done, but they're likely to bear results in future. Going to the next slide. So what are our key takeaways? What are our lessons from IKEA's transformation? The first is that they had focused on hotspots, like material production and product, which basically contribute almost 80% of their emissions. They have first focused on these three areas. Then they have made suppliers their partners and not just treated them as vendors. So they are co-investing with them in renewables, in coal phase out, and electrification. So, scope 3 reduction is possible only when the transformation happens at the supplier level. Then they moved fast even with when they had imperfect data. So they did not wait till the last moment that that they will have all the data with them and then they will work on material decarbonization. So they focused on delivering action first and improving the data over time. Front load action accelerated energy, material, and logistic changes to avoid any expensive compliance costs. So action has been at the forefront, and they built transparency, which had led to building investor trust. So they publicly reported where emissions had increased, like in case of transport and home deliveries. So this has built brand credibility among the investor community. That's all from my end. If anyone else has anything to contribute from the group, they can.
Yes, Chetna, I gone through the report and okay, it covers almost all. And but what I saw from the IKEA overall, the circularity and the green marketing, they use this concept very potentially that you already mentioned in our slide somewhere, where the emission is more than 50%. So the concept where they focus circularity and that like green marketing concept, everything into the refurbishment, recycling, and reproduction. Okay, so I think that was the major point where IKEA succeeded to have a major emissions. I think you covered also that. So one small, I think I add in the group hour. Thank you.
So Ganeshji was mentioning this IKEA circularity plan. Actually, they have a some primary goal of 100% circular business by 2030. And in terms of circularity, they follow four circular loops, that is reuse, refurbishment, remanufacturing, and recycling. So they have a plan that by 2030 they will be the 100% of their products will be within the circular principle. And they also have a big plans of law like material sourcing, FSC certified woods, no, recycled woods. Then they are also planning for no, this life extension service, means spare parts and buyback and resale. And they are also planning for furniture leasing also. So these are some of the points, uh, uh, we should also keep in mind. And also, they have accustomed some of the, renewable energy plan. So that also, if you can add, because they are almost into 100% renewable energy, in operations. And vehicle one you have already mentioned. Their sustainability strategy talks about people and planet positive. And they have some products, that cookware products, which contains a hazardous material like PFAS, they call it, perfluoroalkyl, substance, and also formaldehyde. I think Namita has mentioned about formaldehyde. So these, these are hazardous substances. They are also phasing it out, in a planned way.
Right.
And when I was in Doha, there is a big IKEA shop is there, and they were actually promoting all the customers that home delivery, free home delivery, and they were trying to do this home delivery with the battery vehicle. So that was one of the latest, I think, strategy they are putting forwards to reduce the emissions in the supply chain. So that was a very nice actually concept. I liked free delivery at home with the green battery vehicle. That was a very nice idea, which normally any other manufacturer supplier they don't have in place. So I think IKEA
Yes.
have a very good plan.
Anyone else want to add something? Uh, uh, in the future presentation, as sir has mentioned before also, if you are highlighting the positive things, try to highlight some of the negative things also which you have found in the slide like this. Like ma'am or Namita was talking about some child labor issue was there. No, IKEA has. And also that agricultural, that regenerative agricultural, wherein they take care of soil health. And say they have some good social program in Vietnam that is called Acacia project. Acacia is a plant, no? So they help in them. And also they have like a sustainability milestone. No, they call it as their name also. IKEA is the largest IKEA retailer, but they have a combined group called Inca Group. So they have also their plan of action in terms of GHG mitigation and all.
Good. So, absolutely, as Abdullah ji was talking about, negative need to be highlighted. Chetna also did a great job by looking into scope one, two, three in detail. And well, Ganesh, you have covered everything. Where is Rama? I didn't see her. She also prepared Costa Rica, right? So my
Yes.
challenge is you have to look into in detail their strategy as well as scope one, two, and three reporting. What they are missing. For example, you have seen scope three, right? They are covering approximately 10 of those categories, including food, etc. So which one is important for them? Where is the major hotspot? That's how you have to look, and eventually that's what we have to also record. What interesting fact was that furniture business is fine. First time when I heard food business IKEA is doing, I was literally surprised that what a wooden company or wood manufacturing company is doing in woods, in food. And then I realized that's they want to make sustainable food system, and they are making a massive progress there. And however, one of the area is gone up. Uh,